Why did you dedicate your first book to your mum?
Do I need to be consistent with how I answered that question last time? Because you just watched it and you know what I said.
I
But
know,
that
but
was that was 6 months ago, and I don't remember what I said exactly.
there's no test.
Yeah, I know I grew up in a single parent household, so it's more that is maybe more common now. I think there's just as life has changed, but certainly in the era that we grew up in, it wasn't quite shameful, but it was pretty close to that. And sort of a traditional conservative, sort of European centric kind of community that we were from.
Mhm.
That was, not, and that we were sort of from my family was sort of expats from one part of Canada to another part of Canada. So, there was not multiple generations of people there. So I think it's sort of an isolated kind of upbringing. I don't mean that we didn't have community and friends, but some of the infrastructure that maybe we take for granted in certainly, what I'm exposed to now at this point in my life. And so, that means that there's a lot of pressure and a lot of responsibility for my mother, who, I think made it her goal to ensure that her kids had opportunities beyond those which she had. She finished high school and that was it, and kind of didn't ever have really a career. She worked her whole life until she retired, to enjoy that. But she worked to take care of everybody. She worked at a job to take care of everybody, but she also worked to take care of everybody.
Mm.
So I think the dedication says that my mother taught me how to ask questions. And I think sort of, that is the text, right? That my mother is an incessant question asker. It's one of those qualities that, you admire and you roll your eyes at, depends kind of where you are at in the question asking. And then so I think the text is sort of saying like it's impossible to disconnect, what my profession demands of me in terms of looking at the world, like doing that task, but also thinking about the world that way. Literally is a thing that I was exposed to, but also I think, reaching a point in one's life where, wow, I wrote a book and I am having this book come out. Like, where does all this, that's a milestone that, I was extremely, grateful for the chance to get to that point. And I think the subtext of that dedication is just to acknowledge, like, yeah, I was put on a path by someone that didn't know what that path looked like, but kind of, sent out to have opportunities. So I think the subtext is kind of acknowledging, yeah, if not for the kind of upbringing that I had, then I wouldn't be having this conversation with you. Wouldn't be someone who's written books. It's just, I'm grateful for that.